Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, second chapter, text 5. Om Namo Munayo Sadhu Pristoham Bhavad Pir Lokamangalam Yat Krita Krishna Samprasno Yin Atma Suprasidate. Translation. O sages, I have been justly questioned by you. Your questions are worthy because they relate to Lord Krishna and so are of relevance to the world's welfare. Only questions of this sort are capable of completely satisfying the self. Purport. As it is stated herein before, in the Bhagavatam the absolute truth is to be known, so the questions of the sages of Naimisharanya are proper and just because they pertain to Krishna, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth. In Bhagavad Gita, the Personality of Godhead says, in all the Vedas there is nothing but the urge for searching after Him, Lord Krishna. Bhagavad Gita 15:15. Thus the questions that pertain to Krishna are the sum and substance of all Vedic inquiries. The whole world is full of questions and answers. The birds, beasts, and men are all busy in the matter of perpetual questions and answers. In the morning the birds in the nest becomes busy with questions and answers, and in the evening also the same birds come back again and become busy with questions and answers. The human being, unless he is fast asleep at night, is busy with questions and answers. The businessmen in the market are busy with questions and answers, and so also the lawyers in the court and the students in the schools and colleges. The legislators in the parliaments are also busy with questions and answers, and the politicians and press representatives are all busy with questions and answers. Although they go on searching such questions and answers for their whole lives, they are not satisfied. Satisfaction of the soul can only be obtained by questions and answers on the subjects of Krishna. Krishna is our most intimate master, friend, father or son, an object of conjugal love. Forgetting Krishna, we created so many objects, questions and answers, but none of them are able to give us complete satisfaction. All things but Krishna give temporary satisfaction only. So if we are to have complete satisfaction, we must take to the question and answers about Krishna. We cannot live for a moment without being questioned or without giving answers. Because the Srimad Bhagavatam deals with questions and answers that are related to Krishna, we can derive the highest satisfaction only by reading and hearing this transcendental literature. One should learn the Srimad Bhagavatam and make an all-around solution to all problems pertaining to social, political, or religious matters. Srimad Bhagavatam and Krishna are the sum total of all things. Krishna. Munayo sadhu pristoham bhavat bhir lokamangalam yat krita Krishna samprashno yinatma suprasidati. O sages, I have been justly questioned by you. Your questions are worthy because they relate to Lord Krishna and so are of relevance to the world's welfare. Only questions of this sort are capable of completely satisfying the self. So here there's questions about matter and there's questions about spirituality, and the whole world is going on with questions about matter. How to get more entangled, how to get more involved into material nature. And Bhagavatam and devotees, hopefully, are more engaged in the questions of how to get out of the material existence and how to get to Krishna. So the whole world is built on question and answers. As Prabhupada says here, the birds in the morning, they are asking questions. And what kind of questions are they asking? Where is food? Where is shelter? Where is a mate to or a partner to mate with. So this is the questions of the birds and beasts and all kind of animals. And the questions of human beings are mainly the same. How can we protect ourselves, build a house so we can live comfortably, we have heat, we have protection, we can lock our door. How can we get something to eat? We need money, we go to work, we facilitate so we can buy some things that we can eat. And how can we enjoy sense gratification? How can we have sex, soft beds, we arrange everything there. So everything in the material world is built around the four principles really, and breaking them. Or maybe gambling. How can we get more money? Can say it's going to be some kind of gamble. So everything is related around these topics in the material world. How to enjoy, how to get more out of the temporary senses. So they all relate to temporary matters. But Krishna says, Nihabikramanasosti pratyavayo navidyate svalpa. Nasato vitate bhavo napavo vitate sataha ubayo bedristum tvastvana yastadvadasinha. That is not real. Everything not containing or relating to Krishna is not real. It's not, because it's temporary. Right? It's here and it's today and it's gone tomorrow. So the matters of Krishna are always there, right? And they are liberating us. Whereas the topics of material world are entangle us and only give very, very temporary flickering satisfaction. So that's the difference between the human beings and the animals. Should be the difference. In Kali Yuga it's not, but that should be the difference. That human beings have a higher intelligence. They can understand, like, what is the meaning, or they can try to understand what is the meaning of life. How to attain real everlasting happiness in the material world. Not just a flickering gratification that goes in a second. So what is all the scriptures about? It's question and answers. The very first verse in Bhagavad Gita, what is it? Dhritarashtra uvacha, dharmasita kurusita, samaveda yudhitava, mamakas pandavas chaiva, kim akurvata, sandhyaya. What did they do? The Pandavas and the Kauravas have assembled on this holy place of Kurukshetra, Chetan. So Samaveda Yudhitava. So Akurvata, what did they do after they came there? Dhritarashtra asked Sanjay. What did they do? And then the whole Bhagavad Gita is practically Sanjay relating what happened on Kurukshetra. And as we know, it's a conversation. The Bhagavad Gita is the conversation, and after the Bhagavad Gita the war really starts. And what is Bhagavad Gita all about? Arjuna is asking Krishna, how am I to understand that you explain this knowledge to the sun god? The sun god is older than you. Arjuna is saying, oh, Krishna is answering that. Arjuna is asking, how can I kill these men, my friends and relatives? How can I engage in battle with them? And Krishna answers that. Arjuna is asking, how can I control the mind in 6th chapter? How can I control the mind? The mind is more flickering, more unsteady like the wind. How can I control the mind? And Krishna says, it is possible. All is just question and answers. And Krishna makes that clear, right, in 4th chapter. Sadvidi pranipatina, 4:36, 37. Sadvidi pranipatina, priplasnina sevaya upadekshantite jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. Those tattvadarshina, those who inquire, those who want to know the truth. What do? Tadvidi pranipatina, those ones who know Tadvidi pranipatina, the truth. Tadvidi pranipatina, prasnena, they ask questions, submissive questions, and they perform seva. That's how Krishna is saying, this is how you get the truth. You ask submissive question, and then in order to, like everything is give and take, in order to please the Guru, you render service. And then because they have realized it, they've been through it before, they have asked their Guru questions, and their Gurus have asked their Gurus questions. And in this way the whole knowledge is kept. Imam parampara praptam, imam rajya suyovidum, sakalini hamata, yoganasta parantama. Krishna says, eventually that was lost, the disciplic succession was broken, because they didn't continue asking the right questions. Then the disciplic succession is destroyed. And Krishna says, I have to come to create it again. And how does he do? By question and answers. He has Arjuna coming, asking him questions. He has arranged that Parikshit Maharaj, he's cursed by a Brahmana boy. And then he has to go there and sit on the bank of the Ganges. And Sukadeva Goswami comes. And then Parikshit Maharaj, personal, he asks questions. And what is his question? What is the duty of a man, of all men, and especially a man who's just about to die? And that's actually the whole Bhagavatam. Then the sages, Naimisharanya, Saurabhaka Rishi, they ask further questions. They ask into the questions or an elaboration that is going on between Parikshit Maharaj and Sukadeva Goswami. So then they ask further questions to this. They unfold this very, very broad question, what is the duty of all men, and especially one who's about to die? So this is a very, very deep question, and that's what Bhagavatam is all about. But they go into more details. Please explain us about Krishna and all his pastimes. Please explain us about all the different incarnations, Purusha avatars, and all these different Lila avatars, and please explain all this to us. What is this? And then there's questions coming up, and then there's questions within the questions. Sati Devi, why did she give up her life? Why did Daksha treat his daughter in such a way that she was committing suicide, leaving the body in front of him, forsaking him and everything? Why didn't she get any children? So they ask questions, and then the sages answer. So everything is questions and answers, and that is how we evolve. That is how we learn. Actually, you can say that often the questions are more important than the answers. Because if you get the wrong question, you have to answer the question. If you're asked, what way to Copenhagen? You say, it's this way, right? You go this way, you go this way, you go this way. But if you ask a person, how can I become more happy in life? That's a good question. How can I attain the true value of human life? That's a good question. That was Rupa Goswami. Right? I have all this knowledge, but I don't know anything. So please educate me. Please tell me, how do I become more knowledgeable? How do I understand who I am? I don't even know that. How do I get to that position? So that's a question we should ask and answer. Because do we know? Have we understood? We know the answers, right? We know, okay, we have to become Krishna conscious, we have to chant around, we have to hear the questions and answers in Srimad Bhagavatam every day and relate to them and try to understand them in deep, realize them and churn the nectar every day so we get more and more into really, so it becomes such a part of us, such a big part of us, that's the question and answers we ask. Otherwise, if we see in our daily lives, often it's not. It's more related to the service or something like in the outskirts of Krishna consciousness, you can say. We have question and answers out there. Right? We try not to be completely in Maya. Right? What did you see? What did you watch in television yesterday? We didn't, because we don't. So this is not our question and answers. But often it's also not, why did Krishna send Akrura to Vrindavan instead of going himself? Why did he do that? Or why did he send? Anyway, why did Prahlad Maharaj? Why did Prahlad Maharaj say to his son in now we are 5 years old? Kaumaram Acharat Pratyo. Now it's time. Why didn't he? He says, Kaumaram. Now we are Kaumaram. Now we are 5 years old. Kaumaram Acharat Pratyo. Now it's time to ask questions. Now it's time to ask the right questions. Now we're 5 years old. We are a little more than that. It's 5 years old. Now it's time to ask these questions. Now forget all the other questions. Minimize those and ask the questions that are relevant. That is a solution to things and should be the real nectar. Right? Again, we can see in our consciousness, and I see it so much in myself, constantly going towards Maya, constantly going towards dirty things, right? The empty material, unsolid substance of this material world, go into this constantly, instead of trying to learn what is this? What are the real questions to ask? Where do I get these answers? We know where to get the answers, but where in Bhagavatam are the answers? That's really what we should do. We should know, Prabhupada says we should know the scriptures like forwards and backwards, so that we actually have the answers, because we are supposed to be the head of society. We are supposed to be the head of the society body. That we should be the brahmanas. We should be the one telling the politicians how to run the world. And maybe one day it will come to that. Who knows? One day people will see that this world is futile. There's nothing really going on. They'll see how they are mistreated by the so-called protectors, because they're asking the wrong questions, and they are asking the wrong questions to the wrong persons. So instead, if people want to ask the questions, and how do I get more money to the politicians? How do I get more enjoyment? Because this is what they're asking, and this is where they are voting for. Instead, if they're saying, how can we improve this planet for all of us, for the whole, and not just a temporary solution, but an eternal solution that'll never become turn into suffering. Because this is the nature of the material world. Little pleasure and then suffering. But that's only because we are asking the wrong questions. So here we hear, in this verse today, I've been questioning you because your questions are worthy, because they relate to Lord Krishna, and so of the relevance of the world's welfare. So this is for the world's welfare. It's not only for the sages there. They have attained perfection. Arjuna, he is put into Maya by Krishna, so he can seem to be illusion, so he can ask the right questions. So he can ask our questions, because we are not capable. We are not capable of coming humbly towards Krishna. Krishna, please take away all my anatas. How do I get rid of my anatas? So he has Arjuna, and he explained the whole thing to Arjuna, because Arjuna, he knows how to ask the right questions. So he's asking the questions we should be asking constantly. Why do I still relate, how do I still identify with this lump of matter? Even though I've again and again heard, how many times have you heard that we are not this body? So why do I still relate to it? Why is it still an upadi? Why do I still think I'm a man, or I'm a Dane, I'm from Denmark, or I'm this and this, I'm this and this, I'm all these parties? Why do I still? Because I'm constantly absorbed in the wrong questions, and therefore getting the wrong answers. So it's all about changing this one part of our life, how we relate to the right questions and right answers. So I can ask if there are any questions. I'll try to give the right answer.
Probably more a comment. Thank you very much. Very important points we have to hear again and again. It seems to me that a fundamental quality in a devotee is abhaya, a fearlessness, and Prabhupada was called Abhaya Charan. It was without fear, and we know Vaikuntha, place without anxiety. So fearlessness is very important. But it seems to me that it's a fear, fear that prevents people from asking proper questions, both non-devotees as well as devotees, because we're afraid of getting an answer we won't like. And that also applies to devotees. So it's very important to, as you said, put the proper questions, but sometimes we don't like the answers we get, because we are fearful of the consequences of those answers. So could you elaborate a bit more on that?
Yeah, if you ask the spiritual master, how can I serve you? And he says something we don't like, then we are sort of like obliged to do it anyway. So then you can argue it's easier not to ask. We are afraid to. Actually, most devotees, I think, is after moksha. Right? We want liberation from suffering. That's for people coming to Krishna consciousness, and in Kali Yuga it's practically only the distressed. So we are so much in distress, and devotees, they are so intelligent that they learn, okay, I've been doing this so many years, and we know now for so many lifetimes. So devotees, they have to some degree realized that there's no real happiness in the material world. I think that's really the difference between most devotees and taking to Krishna consciousness, why they took to Krishna consciousness instead of like non-devotees trying to still find a solution in a place of temporary suffering. So devotees, they have realized that, but from there to really realize that we are not this body, and to fully understand that I should fully surrender unto Krishna, Sarva Dharman Parityaja, I should give everything up, and Manmana Bhava Madhvato, we should constantly be Krishna conscious, we should constantly ask the right questions about Krishna, and we should constantly seek the right and truthful answers. How to reach that goal in the fastest way possible is a different subject. It's a different surrender, form of surrender. And it's a gradual process. So for now, we have to be honest with ourselves and find where we are situated, what kind of surrender are we ready to. Prabhupada says if we were surrendered like Raghunath Das Goswami, we would die. Right? So we could not do that, we cannot live like Raghunath Das Goswami. But we can find, okay, this is my limit at the present moment. This is how much I can surrender, and then follow that. Because if you do it immaturely, and fully say, okay, Krishna, take away all my anatas, take away all my possessions, take away everything from me, Krishna might do it. So if you ask such a question of Krishna, we should be ready to, okay, maybe he will do it. So the balance is to surrender with the heart, not just with the mind. Because if you do it like, again, prematurely, or without having that on that level of Krishna consciousness, if you try to follow the example of Raghunath Das Goswami or Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, practically not sleeping, eating only a little buttermilk or charnamrita every day, we will not be able to maintain that. And Nectar of Devotion says we should not take vows that we cannot, I think the word is easily maintain, or at least we can somehow easily maintain it. So fear can be that Krishna will actually do what we ask, or the spiritual master will actually give us the instruction that will fulfill that desire. So we need to come to the point where we say, okay, this is, again, and that we learn from hearing, from asking the right question and getting the right answers. We learn actually where we are situated and how to come to the next level of Krishna consciousness. Right? From Shraddha to Prema. We need to find out where we are there. We need to find out if we are on Anartha Nivritti, but where in Anartha Nivritti are we situated? And then we can ask the questions that relate to that. How do I get from this point to this point? Instead of just saying, how can I be a fully surrendered devotee to Lord Krishna? That's a good question. That's a very good question. But are we capable of following up on that, on the answers? Are we capable of living the answers we get? Sarva Dharman Parityaja. Give it all up. Give everything else up. Only surrender unto Krishna. That's intelligence. That's what we should do. But also it's a gradual process. So the fear is there. Fear can be used and misused, or it can be an advantage or a disadvantage. Fear is good. If you stand, if you're approached by a tiger, it's good fear, because all the chemical comes in the body, the adrenaline and whatever comes in the body, and you understand, oh, this is where I should be aware. So the balance of spiritual life, it's a very, the Prophet said it's like walking on a razor blade. Right? A little too much to one on the side, and you can easily fall and cut yourself. So we should have a plan that at the end of this life we should be fully surrendered to Krishna and only one desire. That should be our plan. But then the whole details of the plan is how we reach that and how fast. The more intelligent we are, the more we just throw everything out. Take it up higher, take away that fear. Right? Ask Krishna, take away that fear. Take away my independence. Allow me to fully just surrender unto you. Please help me in that regard. Right? Take everything away. That's intelligence. But are we capable of living it? Because if you ask Krishna and then afterwards start praying to Krishna, oh Krishna, please don't take everything away. And that's often what happens. We find out, oh, this is too much. So what we should do is we should find out where am I situated and what is the next step from there. And that should always be the progress, practically day by day. We should try every day, how can I add a little more to my Krishna consciousness? How can I give up a little more of Maya and come a little closer to Krishna consciousness? But we all know we are in the material world and we have it goes like this. But then again, the solution is asking the right questions and being in association with devotees. Doing what Prabhupada says. What is that? Prabhupada is giving us all the answers. Right? All these how can we questions. How can we become more Krishna conscious? How can we surrender more? How can we ask the right questions? Is simply one solution. Chant very good rounds. Hear Srimad Bhagavatam every morning. Hear Bhagavad Gita in the evening. Right? Sing the morning program. So do all this. Being in association with devotees. Follow at least one of the 5 processes, most potent processes of devotional service, and try to make that part of your a big part of your life. Then the fear, right? The fear gradually of actually, because that's mostly our fear. If I surrender fully to Krishna, will He take care? And mentally and intellectually we know He will. I think we all know He will. But still deep within our contaminated consciousness is the doubt. What if I surrender fully? Will Krishna really catch me? If I jump, will He catch me? Right? If there's in these New Age courses, they have to stand up on some little pedestal or something, little whatever box or something, and then they have to just fall backwards while people are catching them. To learn people this, you will be caught. The people will take care of you. They will not just let you fall on the floor. So in the same way in Krishna consciousness, gradually as we surrender more and more, we see actually Krishna is there. He is catching us. Ananyas tinsayantumam yedina payapasati tesam nitya payuktanam yogaksemam ahamyaham. Krishna promises that again and again in Bhagavad Gita. I will catch you. I do got your back. So then when we see this, then gradually the fear and the doubt is removed. But that's only happening if we follow the process daily. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Otherwise, because calculate the hours of day where we are really Krishna conscious or where we are in material consciousness. Calculate the day where we are actually absorbed in Bhagavatam or we are absorbed in the material world. So I think for most cases that we are much more absorbed in matter. We are doing things for Krishna, and it's also Krishna consciousness talking. How can we get everything working in Krishna consciousness? But how much time do we really absorb ourselves in these questions and these answers of Bhagavatam? So if we start doing that and we see, okay, we get the result, then the fear is removed, and then it becomes easier and easier to just surrender more and more. Okay, I saw that when I'm doing it, I'm actually becoming more happy, I'm actually feeling more Krishna conscious, and then if we continue doing like this, we see that it works. And then we have to be observant that sometimes also Krishna just takes everything away. Even though we are doing everything right. Krishna can just take away the taste. Krishna left the gopis when they were doing everything right. The gopis are not doing anything wrong. Krishna left them. Why? Krishna left Dhruva Maharaj after he gave him this first darshan in the form of his voice. He left him. And he says, you will not see me more in this life, just to increase your love for me. So Krishna is not cheap. Right? And it's, to overcome all these attachments we developed throughout so many lifetimes. We can't expect it's just like a split second. So it is a gradual process, and we just need to find out how can I make the most advancement in the shortest time. How can my crazy mind come to a state where it's actually satisfied in Krishna consciousness, and I can do that 24 hours a day. That's the goal. But that has to be natural. If you do it immaturely, if you do it prematurely, if you do it without being genuine, then we will not get that result. So the only way to overcome fear and to be capable and able to ask the right questions, the honest questions. How do I advance the fastest question? How do I fully surrender? That should be, and that is Arjuna's conclusion. Right? Nasta moha smitya not latva. Now there's no more illusion. Now there's no more madness. I don't have to ask any of these questions. Samadhamma priti now understood. Now nasta moha smitya, asmitya I regained my memory. Tvat prasada me achyuta. Only by your mercy, Krishna. So it's Krishna removing it. Krishna is taking away the fear. Krishna is taking away the anatas. But Krishna is only doing a yatamam papatinte when we do actually what Krishna asks us to do. Krishna is giving us the method, and then Krishna is removing the anatas. So the anatas we are keeping, we are holding, is the anatas we are asking Krishna to remove. And when Krishna is giving us the means to remove them, we say, no, I'd rather do something else.
So it seems there is a correspondence between spiritual intelligence and advancement and fearlessness. Because as I see it, if you really understand the philosophy, and if you really have faith in the philosophy, you will follow it. Like some practical examples, like recently during this whole COVID, whatever thing, some places in the world, the devotees were encouraged by leaders or so-called leaders, depending upon how you see them, to not go on Harinam, because the leaders of society were stating that they shouldn't do it. They should all stay inside or whatever. But we know that you can't limit the holy name and the chanting of the holy name. We saw the example of Lord Caitanya when they were ordered by the Katsi, all the people at that time, to not go and do congregational chanting, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu set the example. He said, whatever, let's just go do it. And they made this mass revolt, and they did it. So in the same way we also saw in New Zealand, there were some devotees headed by a devotee called Sitapati Prabhu. They were just going out, and day after day they were chanting, and all the people were following them, and they were very enthusiastic. And then some of the so-called authorities in New Zealand, they were like distanced. They say, these people, these devotees doing congregational chanting every day, they have nothing to do with us, they're not part of the ISKCON society. So the so-called leaders were actually trying to prevent the chanting of the holy name. So, but these devotees were doing it anyway because they were fearless. They said, this is the higher instruction, we have to chant and not follow actually demoniac leaders, because we know the leaders of material society today, they are to different degrees influenced by asuric qualities. Definitely. So isn't it a sign of fearlessness that you are actually doing what is proper and not taking the consequences into consideration? So it seems to me there's a correspondence from spiritual advancement and fearlessness.
Yeah.
You can say that.
Bhajahu Remana, oh mind, Mana, please, Bhajahu, please worship Sri Nandananda, son of Nanda Maharaj. Abhaya Charanaravindaye. Charanaravind, his lotus feet makes you fearless.
Yeah.
So when we do what Prabhupada taught us, that's where spiritual advancement comes from. And there's this verse in the second canto of Bhagavatam. Nivrittat, not coming now. But like when you're worshipping Krishna, that's the only way to become fearless. When you're following the process of Savatma, what is it? I can't remember. Tasmat bharata sarvatma bhagavan ishvaro hari shrutavyat kitatavyasta smartavyasta tata abhayam. So when we follow, when we hear, and when we chant and glorify Krishna, then that's the only way to become fearless, Bhagavatam says. So if you want to be free from fear, if you want to be the only solution for permanent happiness, there's a little flickering satisfaction here in the material world that deludes us from surrendering. That takes our mind towards, oh, I can enjoy here, so why should I surrender? But it's unintelligent. We know we're getting old. We're going to die. Everybody knows. Even the karmis, they know. They try to forget. So we know. But there's no way around it. That's happening. But how can we avoid it? By becoming fully Krishna conscious. Like Krishna says that the life is constantly taken away by the sun, rising and the setting of the sun every day. One day we are one day closer to death. Except for a devotee who is dedicating his life to Krishna. So the devotee becomes fearless, but he also becomes deathless. Because after this, he leaves this body, dies, and then he goes back to Godhead, and there's no more birth and death. So, solution, it's the solution to all problems in life. And we have it at our fingertips. But because it takes this fearlessness, to actually be able to inquire about the absolute truth. And inquire in such a way that we're actually getting the real permanent solutions, and then following up on the answers, like living the answers every day. And that's what we're all struggling with. We're all struggling just like, it's such a dilemma for devotees, because they know what is right. Right? We all know, this is what I should be doing. I should be constantly absorbed in Bhagavatam. This should be my only thought. This should be my only question and answers practically. But it's so difficult to live it. So difficult, because our mind is just so used to it. Right? Our conditioned mind is just so used to go to filthy places. Because that's where we find our satisfaction. In the beginning it's like poison, but then it turns into nectar, and vice versa. So like Prabhupada gives the example, if you're jaundice, the most delicate or most delicious rasgulla will taste awful. So Bhagavatam is like a most tasteful rasgulla, but we have jaundice, so the taste is not really coming through. And then we go where our taste is, eating stool. Like Indra was cursed to become a pig, and he found very much pleasure. Oh, it's all the stool I can eat. So it's again, and then we just need to fully understand that it is a gradual process, and but the plan should be there. Right? We should. Prabhupada says, at this lifetime we should get out of here. It's sort of like an outhouse. It's like a toilet. We're in a toilet. This material world is so dirty, so filthy. So we should have the plan. We should understand, I have a few more lives to live. We can hope. Nothing is certain, but I have a few more lives. How do I use them in such a way that is so pleasing to Krishna that he will help me control my monkey-like mind? And then Daivisa Gunamaya. Then Krishna takes care. But if we try to do it on our own, and no, I got my own ideas, so it doesn't work. So we need to constantly, also in our mind, right? This is Krishna consciousness, and we should ask questions in our mind. We should ask questions. Why did this one spoke about? Why did this happen? Why did Prahlad Maharaj sin? Why was Dhruva Maharaj in this condition? Why did Krishna leave the gopis? Why did all these things? This is, if our mind dwells on that every day, one day we'll find out this is just, wow, we're in ecstasy, we're in bliss constantly. And that is the ticket back home, back to the spiritual world. Living in the real world, living in the Bhagavatam, disassociating ourselves as much as possible with the material world. We are captured in this prison house that keeps us here. And the only thing that holds us, the only thing keeps us going is this little flickering sense gratification we get here and there. That's the only thing. Otherwise, right, if you become enough frustrated, again, 4 people come into Krishna consciousness, if you become enough frustrated, and that's why often Queen Kunti is saying, oh Krishna, please give me all these suffering, vipadasam tatasatvat, give me all these sufferings and calamities again and again, because that's where I remember you. So we don't need that, we don't need all the calamities, we can go for the nectar. But if we're not going for the nectar, Krishna will help us, or material nature, Maya will help us understand that we are not in our real home. So then it will just take much longer time, many lifetimes, and a lot of suffering in the material world until we come to that realization, okay, it didn't work. We are a little dull-headed, right? It's like the writing is on the wall, the writing is in Bhagavatam, that we should just, this is what we should do, this is reality. We are living in a temporary Fata Morgana that is bewildering us, and it's actually constantly beating us up. Look for just a week in your calendar, see how much suffering there is in this world. And we are trying to do the right thing, but what about the materialist? So much, that's why there's so much suicide, and people are taking all this medicine just to be able to exist. Right? Or drinking all this alcohol, or taking all these drugs. Right? It could be interesting to make investigation looking into how much of people are actually doing this altogether. How many of these happy pills or psychopharmia or whatever, how much is people taking of this just to exist? How many people are drinking like a lot of alcohol every day just to be able to exist? How many people are taking hard drugs just to be able to exist? And then the rest of them, some of us not. But what are they doing? They are taking another kind of intoxication. They are absorbing themselves so much in something, either their work or hobby or something, just to deviate their mind, to keep their mind away from all the suffering around them. So fearlessness is in Krishna consciousness. We just have to be brave enough to approach fearlessness.
Yes. How is it that we can understand what is best when we are troubled? For example, in a dispute, or there is always a dilemma. There are 2 objective ways of considering the matter. Is that, for example, if lies or public humiliation or some sort of that is threatening to pose rejection of a project that was supposed to be offered or brought about in honor of the spiritual master. And something is spoken about this that involves yourself. You want to focus on the project, you want to appease the devotees, but then again, you can only do so if you try to address and reject what is said about you, but you don't want to go into the matter to address that I'm not at fault. I'm not that fallen. People are lying about me. That is distasteful. So what is the balance? Because we cannot be just recklessly avoiding conflict if we are in charge or associated with the Srila Prabhupada's mission, because the mission is much higher than ourselves. And also if if anything is said about us, we should not defend ourselves. That is distasteful. We should surrender all our doubts to Krishna, and He will take care. But what is the balance here? It is. It's very relevant to me to know how to surrender, and also do we just surrender all these doubts to Krishna and fears to Krishna? Are we advanced enough that we can just leave it to Krishna? I'd rather offer flowers and a nice book and things like that. I feel I bother Krishna more than I serve him.
If people criticize us, like the nature of a devotee is he won't retaliate.
Yes.
Example is there with Maharaj Ambarish, Durvasa Muni attacks him, but he's just standing. Prahlad Maharaj is just folding his hand, Nishingadev is trying to kill him. So the devotee doesn't himself retaliate or protect himself. And he sees everything happening. Tate anukambam susam exumano panchana evat makatam vipakam rivakva pupir vipandam asteti veta mukti padesat by Dayabhag. Brahma is praying after he stole away Krishna's cowherd boys and saying, oh, and he says, Tate anukambam susam, by your compassion, Krishna, one should earnestly just serve you patiently suffering the reactions of his own passionate deeds. Such a person, he's eligible for going back home, back to Godhead. So that is the part of surrender. This whatever comes, whatever Krishna sends my way, I know it's my karma. I know it's Krishna's doing it for my purification. Krishna is doing it to teach me something. So why should I retaliate? If the postman, he comes with a big bill, do we go out and beat the postman? No, he's just a deliverer. So we are getting our whatever Krishna he wants to send. So but it's different. Devotees, they should protect devotees. So if it's others will not accept that people are mistreating you. Devotees will not accept that. But otherwise, we for ourselves, we should just say, okay, whatever Krishna wants from me, whatever is, this is what, again, this is asking the right questions and actually following up on the answers. Where Krishna is saying like this, Brahma is praying like this. So all these instructions are there. Maharaj Ambarish, he didn't go, how dare you? I can easily beat your, and Parikshit Maharaj, he didn't say, oh, you want to curse me, I'll counter curse you. No, I just said, okay, this is it. This is Krishna's arrangement. So he was ruling the whole planet. He could have said, but I have all these services I have to do to Krishna, but this little Brahmana boy, who is he? No, he saw Krishna's hand in it. And he said, this is it. Okay, this just means I have to surrender more. This just means that I have to give myself to Krishna. Krishna is teaching me that this material world is a place of suffering. Even amongst devotees, because we are also in the material world. And most devotees, as mentioned, are a lot of the time in material consciousness. So don't expect utopia, Prabhupada said. Don't expect that everything will be rosy, even if you're living with devotees. We will be criticized, but devotees, Trinadapi Sunitana, Tarora Vivasa Ishnava. Amani no Mani Dina Caitanya Candradasa. If we want to be purified, if we want to be able to chant purely, then that's what it takes, that we are more humble than a blade of grass, and more tolerant than a tree. And then devotees who criticize and without thoroughly investigating really what is the problem, they have something coming. And that's sad, but that's just how the nature works. They will get their reactions for that. Because then they have to learn that part of life. They have to learn, if you criticize people unjustly, even sometimes justly, but especially unjustly, if it's not right, who are we to criticize? Who are we to criticize others? How are we so pure we can see that everything is, how can we judge everything according to time, place and circumstances? And if you didn't even look into the matter, how can you criticize? So if people choose to do that and take their judgment for on this week, foundation, that's on their side. Right? This is not really... I often think like this, like, where is the problem? If a person is misbehaving, if a person is calling me, Caitanya, you're stupid. Okay, you're entitled to the opinion. I agree. I am a fool. Otherwise, I would not be here. Or criticize on something on me. Can be right or wrong. But who cares?
Yeah.
But if it's a person who really I know really care about me, and she says something that, okay, what do you mean, right? And try to. But if a person, who cares? Like if a person in the street called me stupid, okay, you're entitled to your opinion.
Yeah.
So we need to learn this little detachment from being respected, and even in our projects, because you asked that, right? In the project, trying to do something for Krishna, if that is criticized, we should just again. We can try to say, this is how I see it. But how do you, question and answers, how do you do that if you're not questioned? How do you explain how things were really going on, or explain your view of the situation if you're not asked this question? Then it's just going defending. And that is sleeping, eating, mating and defending.
Yes,
this is what we should give up. So if you okay, then like not imitating, but following the footsteps of Maharaj Ambaresh and all these great saints, like following their example, we just humbly following their footsteps and try to say, okay, whatever Krishna wants, if he wants to make me Naranam Natinam Nasundarim Kavitam Bhajagadisa, like if you want to glorify me, Krishna, or cross me in your embrace, or throw me out, or whatever, this is the mood, right? Then, okay, Krishna, I'll bow my head and I'll take whatever you send my way, because I know it's for my purification. And I know you ultimately, you have the whole plan. We just see a little bit of the whole plan. Or if you have a huge picture and you just see like jigsaw puzzles, right? You just see, you don't know what it is. If you just have the puzzles there, you don't know what the motive, what the picture is. But one picture there, one piece there, one piece there, one piece there, one piece there, and all of a sudden you have the... But we just see a little tiny flick of the eternity of what our karma is. So Krishna sees the whole thing. He knows what we need. And that is really part of surrender, just saying, Krishna, whatever you want from me. Like you can defame me, you can make me glorious, you can do whatever. Like I will still just serve you, be a humble servant.
I'm not so concerned about myself, but I'm more like, my focus is that the option within people's minds of joining the project may be spoiled by such defamation on the net, as people may know that we have been through here. And I just pray that Krishna somehow will reach out to the sincere devotees and try to let them know that it is still an option, but I guess it's all in the hands of Srila Prabhupada and Krishna.
Yeah, even the projects, like it is in the hand of Krishna, and we have to have that faith, right? If we do, if like we should see everything in relation to Krishna. So if we do the right thing, if we are convinced we are doing the right thing, and then why go out and try to arrange all kind of things? If you're just doing the right thing, then you're doing the right thing. Yes. And then if Krishna wants to give you or take it or whatever, then that's the best plan. Then it's Krishna having the picture. Right? We don't know what Krishna, whatever project, right? We don't know what Krishna's real plan is for that project. No. We might think it's this or this or this, but Krishna's plan might be over here, like having something completely different in mind. That we don't, like Prabhupada in Gyansi started this whole temple, and Krishna said, no, this is not it. Well, and Prabhupada gave it up. Okay. So not that we should easily give up, but Prabhupada was on such an elevated state that he knew what, of course. But this is really, if Krishna wants it, we do it. If Krishna don't, we don't. So if Krishna wants to whatever project, make it very glorious and glamorous and like many participants or whatever, then that's fine. If Krishna wants to make it very small or very whatever, that's also Krishna's plan. We just have to try to work within the limits and try to ask the right questions and therefore also get the right answers. Even though we don't know all the answers, but Krishna is giving us the answers one by a time, one by a time, and then gradually we will end up, oh, that was why. I can see when I look back in my own life, both as a karmi and as an aspiring devotee, I can see that so many, like, okay, here Krishna was really giving me a turn there, now I can understand why I was taking that turn. And now I can understand why there was this agony, now I can understand why there was this happiness or whatever. And like you can see, if you're a little contemplative, one can see, okay, Krishna was actually driving my chariot all along. So, and this also just makes a devotee stronger. You say, okay, Krishna, whatever you want. You don't have to cater to my desires. Right? I should be the one fulfilling your desires. Okay, I think we better stop. Grandaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki
jai. Namo Vishnu Krishna Krishna Buddha Vishnu Bhagavan Vishnu Namaste Saraswati Rishi Shuna Pasta.